Hello everyone, welcome back to Rich Tech. Today we've got a USB lightning cable which is pretty worn out, and we'd like to see if we can restore this. On a close inspection, you can see that this lightning end is pretty worn out, especially the rubber insulation. And going around, the cable is too dirty and filthy, and also there is some damage right here on the USB side. Now, can this cable be restored and be brought to life? Now stay tuned. Now the first thing we need to do or to check out before we go ahead with this repair or restoration is to find out if this cable is still working. Now here I've got my iPad Air 2 ready to be tested, and my 12-watt charger. First of all, let me connect this to the iPad right there. It's connected to the iPad, and then connect this to the charger. And wow, the cable is still working, and as you can see, it's charging. Sorry for the glare, but this is charging the iPad. So the cable is okay, it's functionally good. Only problem is these 2 points right here, that point next to the lightning end and this point on the USB side. So let's go ahead and repair this cable and see it working again. Now for this repair, we are going to need a few things which we have at home. We are going to need a razor blade, super glue, some scoring material, and scoring powder. The first thing you're going to do is to clean up this cable to see the extent of the damage and also see where we can start our repairs from. And for that, you're going to use the scoring powder and the scoring material and some water to clean this cable. And let's see how it looks like after we have cleaned it up. And cleaning this with the scoring powder is pretty easy. Put some scoring powder on the scoring material and then rub it with water over the cable. And as you can see, the place which has been cleaned is pretty clean. Now check this cable out. Looks almost new. After a few scrubs with the scoring material and powder, it looks pretty good. Almost new if it were not for these 2 damages. Here at the USB end and at the lightning end. You can see some of the filth which was there is still there at the lightning end, at the end of the rubber. But we are not worried, we won't need that. Now let's go ahead and remove this sellotape and see what lies underneath. It looks pretty bad. Wow. Most iPhone, anyway, lightning cable users use sellotape to cover these kinds of damages, because these cables are prone to such damage. So you may find an owner using sellotape or any other thing to cover these joints so that you can use it for a few more days. But now here we have our damage clearly seen, and now we can go ahead and repair it on a more permanent way. The first thing to do is to use a razor to cut off the portion of the rubber insulation which is damaged. And don't go so far behind, just a few millimeters from the damaged end. We want to stop the tear at some point. Carefully remove this, not to cause any other further damage. And we're going to do the same for this rubber insulation underneath the junction here. Now this is very tricky, but we want to remove it up to somewhere in the middle right there, so that we can slide the other rubber junction, the rubber insulation underneath this rubber junction, sorry. So be careful not to cut the outer one, just remove the inner one, but also it requires you to be careful not to cut the wires inside. So it needs care, and if you do a good job, you should only remove the rubber insulation underneath that junction. So we have a neat point to work on right here, and we have a nice place or hole, as you may call it, to slide our rubber insulation in. So this rubber insulation, we're going to pull it on to cover this wire, and then it will go under this rubber junction. We do the same on the USB side. Again, you don't want to cut far from the damaged area. Remove as little waste material as possible. That's the point. Again, we'll go underneath this rubber junction, just like this. Be careful once again to not cut the outer rubber junction or outer rubber insulation. All we need is to remove this inner rubber insulation so as to have space to slide the insulation which is remaining underneath that junction. And if you do a neat job, you should have a nice space under there which will slide the rubber insulation under. Tidy the wires. If you need to use some glue to keep the wires together, you can do so. Now if you do a good job, you should have such a neat outcome. Now these are ready for the next step of our restoration or repair. Now the other thing you need to do is always to test at each and every stage. Test it and see if the wire is still working, because you may have cut some wires which are critical, and you may not be having a working lightning cable. So here is our cable connected to our iPad, and as you can see, it's charging. And now we can go ahead and repair this. Now at this point we need glue. Fairly simple. Put glue all around and underneath this rubber junction, and then before it dries, quickly pull the rubber insulation underneath it. Be careful not to touch the glue, but you can use a cloth to wipe off the excess glue. If you do a neat job, it should dry in seconds, and your result should be something like this. Now this is now done. It's this simple. Now we'll do the same to the other USB end. This will pull it over the junction, over the exposed wire, just like this. And when we are about just like this, we'll put our glue in there and slide the rubber insulation underneath the rubber junction. I hope you understand. If you do a good job, this should be your result. And both ends of the USB lightning cable now look neat, and you can't be able to tell if there was a tear. Now let's clean this up and test this USB cable again. Now here is our USB to lightning cable, cleaned and repaired, almost new looking, connected to our iPad Air 2 and charging. And that's how you repair your lightning cables which may be destroyed or damaged at the ends. If you like this content, kindly consider subscribing, liking and sharing, and hit the subscribe button. I really appreciate. Thanks for your time.